welcome back to Safe Space. We took a little break, but now we're back and ready for a whole new season. This time around, we're digging a little bit deeper, bringing on new guests, and expanding our conversation to be even more inclusive. Today's episode is extra special. My guest is someone who proudly identifies as an ally. He's a podcaster, a YouTube content creator, and you may have seen him before as a guest host on The Recap Show, another project I co-host with my husband and friend over on the Conference Call channel. Beyond that, he's also a husband, a father, a creative, and a true supporter of the community. Please help me welcome, affectionately known as O, Oluseun. O, welcome to the show.
Doing fantastic, man. Thanks for having me on, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. So as I mentioned in the opening, you are an ally, and I think it's so important for us in the community to have people such as yourself. So what I'd like you to do is just give us a broad overview of who O is.
Okay. My name is Oluseun, but everyone calls me Big O. I am the father of 3 wonderful children and a host of the incredible In the Black podcast. That podcast is a podcast dedicated to covering the current events and social issues going on in the Black community and covering it all from the perspective of 3 grown-ass men who like to get into a little bit of good trouble. Through my relationships in podcasting, I've had an opportunity to meet TJ and to meet Chris, and I can't say how thankful I am for that, being able to forge that relationship. So thank you once again, Chris. Really appreciate you.
Absolutely welcome. And as you mentioned, we became friends, and we've forged this through a relationship with TJ. And just for those that did not know, O was a guest host on our other show, the Recap Show, over on the original Conference Call channel on YouTube. How did that relationship with TJ get started?
TJ and I share a mutual acquaintance that happened to pull us together. I did some podcasts early when we first started podcasting back in, Jesus Christ, it's almost a decade, back in 2016, 2017. And I had one of his friends on, and I said, hey, I'm looking for other guests to have on the show. And he recommended TJ, and we brought TJ in. And since then, we've had him in a couple of times as well. And through that relationship, he brought me into your circle. So once again, I'm thankful for these dots that are being connected over these past few years. So.
Absolutely. We enjoyed having you. And, I think that this was a different experience for you, because if I remember correctly, when you did the show, you actually hadn't watched Drag Race. You didn't really know a lot about that culture and that series. And actually, in full disclosure, you actually filled in for myself and Ronald when we weren't here. We were away, I believe, and you filled in with TJ, and that was an experience in itself.
Some big shoes to fill. I don't know why he just threw me to the wolves like that, but yeah, it was quite the experience. And it wasn't just an experience in just, in the recording process, but getting familiar with the culture. I think tangentially, I have gay friends outside of our friendship, and I know that they go to drag shows, but outside of knowing that they go to drag shows and the small bits that I hear when they talk, I wasn't really familiar with it. And getting to try and dive into the culture, for one, was an experience. And it was an experience that I took with my young daughter. She's 15 years, or she'll be 15 this coming month. And we binged that entire season and went through like the growing pains of each one of the contestants and found out how they strategize and all that other stuff. And it was just something that I enjoyed doing with my daughter, because she's into fashion and design. So us having these bridged conversations based off of RuPaul's Drag Race was incredible. It was an incredible thing for me. I'll tell you the truth. It was kind of funny because my wife, she works extremely hard, but we were supposed to spend that weekend, just her and I lounging about and doing whatever. And it turned into me and my daughter pushing her off to the side as we were binging this show and enjoying ourselves. So she got kind of jealous. I'm going to throw that on you, Chris. That was all your fault. So as she's mad at me, I'm going to say it was Chris's fault that I didn't get a chance to pay her any attention. I had to watch RuPaul's Drag Race with my daughter. So
I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll now wear it as a badge of honor. All right. So here's my first question.
I'll let her know you said that too. So you'll get bad
okay.
emails in a bit.
All right. So here's my first question. Can you share a moment or an experience that really opened your eyes to the importance of allyship?
Wow. I've worked in the federal government for a very long time. And I had a colleague of mine that for the longest time was gay, and I didn't know that he was gay. And it's funny because I'd worked with him for close to 10 years by the time someone else in our office outed him to me. And I remember having that conversation with him, like, hey, I don't know if it's true or not, but such and such told me that you were gay. And he's like, yeah, I'm gay. And in the moment, and I know it sounds kind of strange, but in the moment, that was never my thought process with him. I never even thought about him being gay or even having a problem with him being gay necessarily. And just having that conversation with him as he expressed himself to me, and then me having to take a step back and reflect and make sure that I was being the best friend that I could possibly be to this guy. Now, I want to be very clear. This is an older gentleman. He's like almost 10 years older than I am. And I call him my older brother. And I really had to take a step back and say, what type of friend have I been? Have I stood on business when it was necessary for me to stand on business? And just to make sure that once again, that I was just being the best person that I could be for our friendship, talk less to make sure that I wasn't being disparaging or putting them in awkward situations or anything like that. And it was really eye-opening. It was really eye-opening because he thought enough of me, one, to come out to me. He went as far as to even invite my wife and I to he and his husband's wedding. And it was one of those moments where it allowed me to understand that people are people and everyone needs someone to have someone in their corner. And I think we all, regardless of what walk of life we come from, we know what it's like to feel alone. Mm-hmm. To talk less, to feel alone when you think that you have people in your corner and you honestly don't. So, like I said, it just made me really evaluate myself and just make sure that I was ultimately being the best friend and best person that I could possibly be. I tell my children all the time, your number one goal every single day is to be a better person tomorrow or today than you were the person yesterday. And what does that look like? So, yeah.
That's awesome. In that moment, what did you learn about yourself, and how did you teach that to your children?
I never necessarily had any preconceived notions about the community before. I did grow up, well, let me not say that. Let me be transparent. I grew up in a very religious household. I grew up in a home that is Pentecostal, and at one point I was actually even going to go into seminary. But the wonderful thing about it, though, about growing up in my household, was that my parents never, even with all the religious dogma and religious doctrine that people might interject, never told us that this is the way you're supposed to treat people. Said every person is a person with good and bad, with flaws and things that you need to shine a light on, and you should take them at that. And at the end of the day, regardless of what what your religious doctrine may tell you, none of us actually know, right? So would you rather be judged for treating someone badly because you were told that you should treat them badly, or treat them as a human being as you would treat any other human being because you know and interact with that person on a daily basis? People that you love and care for and want to see the best for. And if that's the case for somebody that you call a friend or a family member for that matter, why would you want to besmirch that friendship or that relationship because of one thing, right? One thing that you may not agree with, or one thing that you don't really have a clear understanding on. And I try to push that on my children. I think they're in a better spot than I am. I grew up in an era, I don't know about you, I grew up in an era where being openly gay or being soft was not tolerated. And I grew up with, I have children, my children now are both in high school, and they have many openly gay friends. And watching them just interact with their friends, period, helps me to know that we are, I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but hopefully it leads me to believe that we're moving in the right direction as it comes to tolerance and understanding of the communities that are adjacent to all of ours. So,
Yeah, I think that it's a dual-edged sword right now. I think because of the political climate we're living in, it is becoming a little bit more difficult. But I think when you look at the average person, there's more sensibility. And I think that we've come such a long way, especially your kids' generation. I think they're much more open. They don't see sexuality. They don't see all of the stigmas that we grew up with. They just see people as people. And, if you're my friend, you're my friend. It doesn't matter if, you're heterosexual, you're homosexual, or you're non-binary. It doesn't even matter. And I think when it comes to like pronouns, they're just so used to, all right, well, no, my friend identify as they, them, and they'll correct you. And here's the thing. Even me being identifying as a bisexual male, I still, till this day, and I'm very apologetic about it, but I still sometimes misgender people. I'll just use the recap show that we do. There is a woman on there that is trans, and I've misgendered her several times on the show, and not on purpose. And I think it's just, it's an open mistake. And I've tried to make sure that, especially in the last episode, I did not do it. I was very conscious of every time that I knew I was going to say her name or talk about her, I said her. It's a conscious decision. But I believe, like I said, the generations of today, it's much easier for them to cope and then just to have a better understanding. Whereas people from our generation and our parents, it's harder for them because you grew up a different way. We're living in different times,
Yeah.
So,
I think that's part of the, I don't want to say dilemma, but I think that is part of the challenge, right? Is, like I said, we both grew up, I don't want to say in households, but we both grew up in a time where we know what the perspectives were for young men and what it meant to be a young man growing into a young boy, growing into a young man and going into manhood. There were perceptions of that. And when you have, for so long, your grandfather's been taught a certain way, your father's been taught a certain way, you've been taught a certain way, that conditioning is very, very hard to break, right? So there is a level of, and forgive me, there is a level of patience. And I know at least with my friends, there's a level of patience and understanding that, hey, if I misgender you, that's a different thing. Sometimes, I mean, let's keep it a buck. There's still people in this country that haven't even seen black people because they live in such a community, right?
This is
talk
very
less of being able to say that they know a gay person or a trans person. So there is a learning curve that's there and a level of patience and grace that I think that's necessary to afford to people. Now, that doesn't mean you should be graceful to someone who's completely intolerant, but there are some people that are ignorant, and ignorant just meaning that they just need better teaching.
Yeah. All right. So you're a creative individual. You know, as we talked about, you are a podcaster and a YouTube creative. You wear many hats. You're a husband, you're a father. But how do those roles influence the way you use your voice and your platform?
I want to be very, very, very transparent. My primary focus with my podcast is to the empowerment, the betterment, and the uplifting of Black people, and specifically Black men. It's I want to throw a story back to you.
Okay.
I think on our last show, sometime after the last recap show that we did, we talked about some of the messages that I got after the show, and just trying to pull people in.
Mm-hmm.
My primary focus, once again, is to make sure that we recognize the upliftment and the empowerment of Black people and Black men. And sometimes that can be a challenge. It can be a challenge in making folks recognize that all men are not the same, all men are not monoliths. It could be a challenge in getting people to understand that regardless of what sexuality or what your preference is, that as a Black man, you are a Black man first before you're anything else. I didn't know TJ was gay, right? Until he told me he was gay. But I knew that he was a Black man that needed my help, that needed my respect, because we share the same commonalities. We share the same struggles. One of the things that I found that's been interesting for me is trying not to pigeonhole people. And I know I try to pull myself back from doing that too, to saying that because you identify or believe this, it automatically means these other things about you. And that's not always the case. So trying to capture and broaden a bigger picture of what we as Black people, and specifically Black men, are, and the importance and the beauty that we bring to everybody's culture, to American culture, I should say specifically.
Yeah. No, I truly believe, you know, what you just said in regards to when you see someone, when you talk to someone, it's not about the sexuality person or how they identify. It's really just the fact that, you know, we're Black. And I think that's always something that I've always tried to do as well. You know, this show, when I started it 2 seasons ago, it was really geared toward people of color in the Caribbean community. Then I was like, no, that's a little bit too narrow. I need to broaden it. And it was about people in the LGBTQIA plus community of color, not just Black, but Black and brown and people of color, because I think that there's a disparages. You don't find too many of us out there being represented. You know, our Caucasian counterparts, it's not even a thing. It's just, there's representation all over the place. Go ahead.
That's a question that I've always battled with, right? And at least trying to help be more graceful in compartmentalizing these conversations with other folks. Mm-hmm. That even within a marginalized community, that you guys are still marginalized. I can't tell you how many of my gay friends will tell me that they're going out to go date or whatever, and they'll have white people, Hispanics even, tell them, no Black people, no Blackies over here. And I always found that to be like flabbergasting and mind-boggling, that how can you marginalize people when you know what it feels like to be marginalized? I'm not trying to talk out of school, but it's something that I'm trying to wrap my mind around.
You'd be surprised. I mean, we have conversations. We've had conversations on the conference call on different episodes that we've done, and even amongst ourselves in a community, that, you know, how is it that we are already a marginalized demographic and we still marginalize ourselves within our own community. There's definitely a distinction of, well, no, they're the white gays, we're the black gays, and then, we don't intermingle. And, it baffles my mind that we're still doing this in this day and age in 2025. It's crazy. It is crazy.
It's really, like I said, it's really one of the reasons why I focus on Black men specifically, because at the end of the day, like I said, those struggles, that's one struggle that the struggle of white supremacy in this country is a struggle that we all share, regardless of what our sexuality is. So
Absolutely.
When I see TJ, I don't see him, or see you for that matter. I don't see you as a gay Black man. I see you as a Black man that happens to be gay. And I've always wondered please let this be a teaching moment for me. I've always wondered how you balance that, how you would balance that, because you come from two marginalized communities. So how do you pick what struggle you want to champion or face? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. And I think for me especially, it's a little bit different because of the fact that, and I don't like to say come out, because I didn't come out of any closet. I always say I let people in.
I like that.
But for me, because I let people in at such a late age in my life, I was 43 when I finally decided, I was like, okay, this is who I truly am. And, I'm not hiding anymore. And, I've had to deal with the fact that I'm a Black man in America. I've been discriminated against in stores. I've been discriminated against in the work environment and just in life in general. And then now I'm going to add on the fact that I'm a bisexual man. And that in itself is a fight, because especially when you come out to the Black community, or excuse me, let people in from the Black community, and you say that you're bisexual, the first thing they say to you is, oh, well, either you just don't know what it is you are, or you're gay and you're just trying to pretend that you like women. And I'm just like, no, I actually know who the hell I am. I am 43 years old. I've dated women predominantly most of my life. And before meeting my husband, I actually was in a relationship with a man decades ago. And I know, here's the thing, and I've told this story in season 1, episode 1, when I told my story, who I am. I've known since I was very young that I was different, and different beyond even just feeling that, oh, I'm gay. I knew that I liked both sexes, and it's very weird to articulate when you're that age. And not until I really got into college that I truly understand what that meant and what it meant to be bisexual. And then when I show up on screen, because, I'm on screen all the time now, between doing the recap show on the conference call, or also being on Ron Lewis Foster's platform, Touch Base Daily. I do that show twice a week. I don't show up as a bisexual man. I show up as a Black person. Foremost, that's how I show up. Now, I might talk about how I identify just for conversation purposes, but ultimately, I'm a Black man in America. That trumps everything, because let me tell you something. If I get pulled over by the police, they're not asking me, oh, excuse me,
ask you who you're sleeping with.
Exactly.
Yep.
Or they ask me for my driver's license, and they see that I'm a Black man, and they're going to treat me as such. They don't treat me differently because all of a sudden now they know that I'm bisexual, because they don't know. Unless you tell someone, they don't know that. Yeah. So regardless of what, I wake up every day and I walk through this world as a Black man first, and then I identify as a bisexual man. So when, and here's the thing, like we're in such a heated political climate where the people on the far extreme right are using our sexuality and how we identify against us. Especially, I want to talk about the trans community. They are weaponizing people in the trans community just because you need to have an enemy or someone to point a finger at. And why that community? Because they're already marginalized. History always shows us that the most marginalized communities are the ones that they go after the most, because
they go after first.
That's what they always do. I mean, first it was, Black people, but we fought for our rights and we got a quote unquote a level of equality in this country. Then they came for the gays, and then the gays fought back. And when I say gays, I mean the whole entire queer community. But then, of course, now there's the trans community, and the trans community has always been there. And to be honest with you, the trans community has always been at the forefront for fighting for queer and the entire LGBTQIA plus community. If it was not for the trans community, I, myself, and everyone else in the alphabet soup wouldn't have what we have today, to be honest with you. So to demonize that particular group is egregious. It's disgusting. And I can't wait until we get to a moment where we get past that. It's a fight that we have to fight, and we have to stand with the trans community. I didn't want to make this about that, but I think it's really important to talk about that.
No. I think you're spot on. Like you said, when most authoritarian systems start trying to flex their power, they go after the most marginalized groups of people first. And they do that because not only is it easier for them to do, but they use it as a test model, right? If you don't care about these marginalized people, then the next step is to go to the next group of people that we're going to target, and the next group of people, and the next group of people, until they've acquired all the power that they're looking for. There are so many people in this country that are 2A advocates, Second Amendment advocates. They said that you cannot take my guns, you cannot touch my guns regardless of what. I know that there were people that after Sandy Hook were saying that the death of these kids does not mean that you're going to be taking my gun rights away. Now, here we are in the year of 2025, and there are people proposing that we take the gun rights away of trans people because they want to note it as a mental illness. Now, what happens once they say, okay, we're giving you the green light to take away the gun rights of trans people because you believe it's a mental illness? Then they're going to move on to other communities, slowly but surely. And this, once again, and I can't stress it enough, this is the Second Amendment rights that all of these groups have been fighting for. This is all you ever hear them clamoring about. Yep. And now they're starting to give way to say, well, maybe we should give away some of our rights. No. And even if you don't necessarily fall in alignment of allyship with trans people, which I don't know why you wouldn't, because people are people, like we've been saying this whole show.
Absolutely.
At the same time, watching someone else, a human being, have their rights stricken away from them should bother you just as much as anything.
Yeah. Now, before we move away from that, you said something that really is striking, because, they are trying to demonize trans people and saying that trans people are the ones that are contributing to this mass shooter problem that we have in this country. When you really look at it, and the question has been asked and they never answer it, how many trans people commit mass murders? I believe out of all the mass shootings, going all the way back to Columbine, there's only been 5. There have been hundreds of white men from the far right that have committed these atrocities. But yet still you are calling out the 5 that you can find that has to deal with trans people. Ridiculous. Go ahead.
No. I think you're spot on. I just don't like how this need, and it's a ploy or a tactic in government, in politics. I mean, not saying government, in politics. The need to weaponize or use other people against one another has always been a staple. We saw during the last election that Donald Trump, there was one commercial that literally, I think the polling shows afterwards that one commercial was actually like the tipping point for many folks that ended up voting for Donald Trump. It was the commercial where it said, Kamala is here for they, them. Donald Trump is here for you. And they were talking about trans rights in NCAA sports. There are over 7,000 college athletes in the United States. You know how many trans athletes there are in that whole 7,000? 5. And yet they
handful.
used it as a weapon to tell people that you should ignore someone's human rights. Now,
Yeah.
let's say I can understand if you think that there's policy or that there's regulation that maybe need to be tailored or whatever. That's another thing. But to try and wholesale throw people in the trash it's just something that doesn't sit well for me, bro. Just doesn't sit well.
Yeah. I mean, you know what it is? It all boils down to people are fearful of what or who they don't know. And if you would just take the time to sit down with someone and get to know them, you would know that they're a human being first. I mean, listen, we know each other. I don't care, how you identify or who you sleep with. That's your personal business. And I think that that's where it should stop. So, we're all human beings. We all have similar goals. We all just want to live a good life and leave a legacy behind. And that's it. That is it. That's what it all boils down to. And it doesn't matter where you come from in this world. I've traveled all over the world and everyone says the same thing. And I see it for myself. They just want to raise their families and live a good life and leave this earth a little bit better than they found it. That's it.
Into it. Yes, indeed.
That's it. All right.
I got to ask you then, as we're talking about that, what do you think we can do, hetero cis men? And I'm just speaking for myself, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And for those people that identify as me, what do you think that we can do to be better allies? Because there's still these conversations. There are other conversations that need to be had, I guess, on the edges. But what would you like to see be done to be a better ally?
I think what we're doing right here is the perfect example. I didn't know you prior to TJ introducing us. And then, after we had wrapped on one of the episodes of the recap show, I said, hey, I have a show called Safe Space, and I would love for you to come on and just have a conversation of you being an ally, because here's the thing. You don't find too many cisgender men coming into spaces where people who identify in the community to have conversations, have brief and frank conversations like we're doing today, and getting to know the other person. Because you know what? To be honest with you, we're not really having a conversation about our gender. We're just having a conversation about life in general. And I'm getting to know you and you're getting to know me a little bit deeper. And we're finding that we have similar common ground. You know what I mean? So I think that if people would just take time out of their day just to get to know someone, they'd understand that, hey, we're the same. You like sports, I like sports. You're into fashion, I'm into fashion. You like technology, I love technology. That's where you find commonality. One of the things that we found commonality on is the fact that, we both love the platform of YouTube and we're both kind of tech geeks in a certain way. We've had in full transparency, we've had conversations and video chats since we recorded last, maybe over a month and a half ago, about the platform that we're on and how to use it, and even like exactly. And that, for me, that's more important than anything else. And then the fact that you're getting to know me a little bit more, you're getting to know about my relationship with my husband. I'm getting to a little bit know more about you, your family, your wife, and your dynamics. That's where the common ground is, and it's just all about being human. So if people just take time to get to know other people, you would understand that you're more alike than you are different.
Yeah. I think a conversation that doesn't happen enough, though, is that recognizing that as much as there is work to do, men and Black men are quickly falling into understanding that we are all people. And like I said, the primary dynamic is that we as Black men, we share that commonality of being Black men. I think one of the conversations, though, and I hope I'm not being too spicy when I say this.
No, come on with it.
That we need to look at everyone when we talk about tolerance of communities. And I'm gonna give you a perfect example.
Okay.
After I came on your show 2 times, came on the recap show, I cannot tell you how many women showed up in my inbox asking me if there was something that I needed to tell them, whether I was coming out, what's going on, how I identify. And I'm telling you, women, and even women that I've been intimate with, were asking me questions like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? And I told one of my friends, I think you guys, Rashid, I told Rashid. And
Okay.
Rashid said, yeah, this is something that we face very often. And I asked him, I said, hold on. How can you face this very often? I thought that there, between women and the gay community, or gay men specifically, that there wasn't really any daylight, right? Like, you guys were in complete allyship. And he said, no. In many instances, it feels like we're being tokenized by those people. There are women that are homophobic, just as homophobic as men.
Yep.
I honestly did not get a message from any of my male friends asking me, hey, bro, like, what's going on with you? Like, what time is it? I can't tell you how many messages, even from women that I don't know. It was like, what's going on? I watched your podcast before, and all of a sudden, like, you turning gay? I'm like, and it blew my mind because it caught me off guard. It really did kind of catch me off guard, because I had these preconceived notions that,
you know what,
most women are in allyship.
Okay, so here's the thing that I found to be the case. And, you know, you're hitting on a point that is something that we talk about all the time in the community. If you're a Black man, right, and you associate yourself with a gay Black man, the first thing women are going to turn to is like, oh, so what, are you gay? Because it's not okay for a man to have a relationship with a gay man, or a man to say, hey, you know what? I'm open to the possibility of being, you know, having curiosity, asking questions, or even going there with another man, because then it's like, nope, you're automatically listed as gay. Whereas women can explore, try it out. And, you know, it turns into, oh, there's exploring their sexuality. It's okay for a woman to do it. You know, we've had so many conversations about this where, you know, women, it's okay for women to have experiences. And then also, especially men look at it as, oh, okay, yeah, she's into that. So that's something I want to get into. You know what I mean? But if you're a man and you have an experience with a man, or you're open to having conversations with another openly gay man, your manhood is questioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And women will be the first person to do it. I'll use myself as an example. Okay. So, you know, I let people in at a later time in life. And, you know, I've had ex-girlfriends that I've told, and then some that found out via this platform. And the first thing, you know, that they came to me with was, oh, you were bisexual. And then all right, I can understand feeling betrayed. And I've talked through that experience as far as, like, you know, one, it's not something that I dealt with. So I couldn't I couldn't let other people in and let them deal with it with me, because I hadn't dealt.
Let's take a step back.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not understanding. Feeling betrayed, how? Do you feel betrayed when you separate yourself from a partner and find another partner? Like, how do you feel betrayed?
Right, exactly. But a lot of people, especially when we just talking about women, they feel betrayed if you don't tell them either you're bisexual or that you are gay and didn't know how to deal with that side of you. But now here's the thing. If a woman has an experience and doesn't disclose that, it's not a big deal. It's like, okay, no, whatever. But when you do it, or when I did it, it was a problem. And my explanation was like, listen, this was something that I struggled with internally with myself for the majority of my life. You know what I mean? I'll be 50 in a month and a half. So for the up until I was 43, I struggled with that. That's not something I said publicly. That's not something that anyone knew about me. You know what I mean? So for you to say that you felt betrayed, it was, I mean, and on top of it, here's the thing. When I was in a relationship, whenever I'm in a relationship with anyone, it is me and that person and nobody else. Okay? I've never cheated on someone when I was in a relationship with them. That's not something that I did. That's not something that I saw growing up in my household. You know what I mean? And then here's the thing. People are people, you know. Homosexuality is not something that is new within the last 100 years. It's been around for decades, and it is
for eons. It's been around for forever.
Yes, and it is found throughout nature everywhere. Okay, everywhere. Yeah. So I think
every culture has it, bro.
Yeah, and different cultures deal with it very differently. You know, you've got the native community. Some of them, they embrace it and it's part of their culture because they notice that, they recognize that, you know. But it's just it's hard. So getting back to the question with when it comes to women, for whatever reason, women have a problem, especially when you either start associating yourself with gay or queer community. They're like, all right, well, what's going on here? Versus when, you know, I'm sure you can look at like your homeboys, your guy friends, and they don't have an issue because they know who you are. You know what I mean? They know your heart and they know who you are. They know who O is. You know what I mean? So you don't get that as much. And to tell another personal story, you know, one of my fears before I let everyone in, and this happened during COVID, during lockdown, you know, I had told my two best friends at the time, you know, one was living in Florida and one lives in England. And I told them, and I was fearful because like, these are my best friends in the entire world. We've been friends for, as a matter of fact, this year is 20 years that we've been friends. Wow. We've traveled, you know, I'm the godfather to one of their kids. I know all the kids. I mean, we just have an immense bond. Like we check on each other every single day. You know what I mean? And if a day goes by, we don't hear from one another. This is like just checking in. Everybody okay?
Just checking in, make sure
you know what I mean?
Right. Yep.
Right. We know each other's families. You know, our parents know each other. That type of stuff. And when I told them, I was fearful that, you know, it would change the dynamics of our friendship. But they surprised me in such a good way. You know, the first thing they said to me was like, listen, they said, are you happy? I said, yeah. They said, that's all that matters. That's all, nothing else matters. As long as you're happy, I'm happy for you. And yes, there was a learning curve because they wanted to understand and to see life from my perspective, in my eyes now. You know, especially growing up in a Caribbean household and Caribbean culture, that's not something that was accepted.
As an African, I know what that is like, and I'm not like I cannot say that I understand your plight, having to come out or let people in, as you say. But I know what it's like when culturally that is completely excluded, and I can only imagine what it feels like to feel like you need to not be your true and authentic self because you have to live in fear, so to speak, because you don't want people to judge you a certain way.
Right.
Once again, I've always said that I'm an advocate of Black people and Black men specifically. And one of the things that I saw that was very interesting, I think this is one of the conversations that we had after our wrap-up show, was 2-3 months ago was Suicide Awareness Month. And I posted something on my social media about recognizing the signs of checking in on the men in your life, right? Because very often we are left out of the conversation about mental wellness and just being able to, you know, have someone to confide in. And I can't tell you the number of people that came in to that conversation blaming everything, blaming women, blaming men, blaming each other, blaming homosexuality, blaming all sorts of things on why men would choose to do something like that, why depression is the way it is. And my first thought was, how can you excuse me, how can you pigeonhole someone like that? That men, it says in this country that Black boys, are 3 times more likely than their white counterparts to commit suicide. They're four times more likely in this country to have suicidal ideations than their counterparts. They are more than 7 times more likely to have depression and have it go undiagnosed than their white counterparts. How can you see, and this is men and boys. We didn't place a gender, we didn't place a sexuality on it, we didn't do any of that stuff, any sexual preferences. We said these are men in your life, that if you care for them, that their well-being and peace of mind would be first and foremost in your mind, not trying to find some boogeyman to blame it on, right?
Yeah.
And it's always, it kind of messes me up, because me as a Black man that has suffered from depression and anxiety can only imagine what it feels like to be a Black gay man suffering from depression and anxiety and not having anyone they can talk to, and you have this other burden on your back that you haven't been able, or you cannot express to people. And it really just has brought me to understand that there's a lot of growing that people need to do. There's a lot of growing that we as a culture and a society need to do.
Absolutely. With that, let me since we're talking about and like advice, for those watching who want to be better allies but don't know where to start, what's one simple but powerful step they can take today? What would you say that they could do?
Have a conversation, man. Have a conversation and don't be afraid of it. Because I'm not going to lie to you. I don't think that he would hate me saying his name. My homeboy Charles, when I told you about at the beginning that he was outed and I came to him and was like, hey, this is what happened and so on, and just getting to know that life, that side of his life. I think I wrestled with talking to him about that for at least a damn week before I finally had that conversation. And then finally, when I had that conversation, I can't tell you, not only did I feel like a weight was lifted off of my back, knowing that this is who he truly is, and that I think it also lifted a weight off of his back as well. Because after that, like I said, he was more engaging, more encompassing. I told you he invited me to his wedding. We hang out all the time. I literally call him my brother, my big brother. And all of that started with an unabashed, unfrightened conversation. And it can open doors. That's as much as I can really tell you. It can open doors. Just being able and willing to have those conversations and not being afraid of the outcome, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. I think that if more people had conversations like this, the world would be a better place. I mean, I think that you've been opened up more to see what the community is. I can see you as a human being, you see me as a human being, and we move from there. I mean, that's really what it's about. It's not about the sexuality, it's just about the human being that you're talking to. All right. Yeah. So looking ahead, what projects are you working on now, and how do you hope that they will impact the communities you care about?
Every day is a battle, especially now given the current political climate that we live in. Before the end of the year, we are hoping to put together a panel conversation, bringing in leaders, community leaders, to have this very conversation about what we can do as a community to help us, I guess combat is the only word I can really use, combat what we believe is going to be coming within the next remaining 3 years of this presidency. My ultimate goal, and I know I've said it 1,000 times already on the show, is to make sure that people that look like me, you, TJ, your husband, that we're okay. And that we come out on the other side of this okay. And that once we come out on the other side of this being okay, how we get better from there. So those are some of the things that we're working on, and just continuing to have these types of conversations on our podcast as well. And just giving people opportunity to learn what their community circumstances are, and trying to give them little tidbits and words of wisdom that they can use to take with themselves into the community to make the lives of marginalized people better on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, you hit on something. we all have to figure out, one, how to get past these next 3+ years. That's the first thing. But then when we do find a semblance of peace, I guess, in a way, and comfort, we cannot be stagnant. And I think that's what part of the problem has been right now. I think people have gotten too complacent just because, quote unquote, we got some civil rights, we got some equality when it comes to LGBTQIA+. We got the right to marry. We got complacent. And here's the problem. These weren't all, like, a lot of these things weren't codified as amendments. They were just on the books or, that type of, but they weren't codified. And that's the problem and the space that we're living in now. Because here's the thing. I give it maybe another month or a couple months. I think they're going to try to overturn the Marriage Equality Act.
Obergefell, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, it's not going to, as of right now, the understanding is it's not going to affect people that are currently married because they can't undo that. But people that want to get married moving forward won't be able to. It'll be illegal in a majority of the states. It'll be up to states to decide, do they want to do that? But, we've been down this road already with women's rights and the right to abortion or just women's health care, because abortion is women's health care. We need to understand that because it's not just about abortion. It's about women's being able to take ownership of what they do with their own bodies. Yeah. And they're trying to come after what other people do with their bodies and even in the privacy of their homes. What people do in the privacy of their homes or their bedrooms or wherever, it is their business and government has no business in it. So I say that to say that we can never, ever be complacent. People have fought hard for us to have these rights, and we cannot take it for granted. What do they say? Easy come, easy go. We have to constantly be fighting to keep these rights.
And that's where being that's where being an ally actually really means something.
Yes.
Because there's a saying, and I forgive me for not quoting it correctly, but it's a saying that came out during a quote that came out during World War II or so, right? It said they came for the blind, but I wasn't blind, so I didn't say anything. They came for these people, so I didn't say anything, and then they came for me, and there was no one to speak up for me. There's a reason why we should all link arms during this, most importantly during these next 3+ years. Because we're going to watch as we see people have their rights eroded from them. And then eventually they're going to come to something that you're passionate about. And there won't be anyone to fight for those rights for you. So we should all link arms right now and be each other's ally. It's more important now than it has been in a long, long time.
Well, with that being said, I think that's a great place to end this conversation. Oh, what an amazing conversation. And I thank you so much for joining me for this. I think that these conversations are so necessary. But before we go, please let people know where they can find you.
I appreciate you, Chris, man. I can't say thank you enough. Like I said, the friendship that we've been able to forge after watching RuPaul's Drag Race has been incredible. So I can't say thank you enough, man. Once again, my name is Oluseun, otherwise known as Big O, Mr. In the Black himself. Once again, thank you, Chris, for allowing me to have an opportunity to have this conversation. You can find me on the Incredible In the Black podcast. Once again, it's a podcast dedicated to covering the current events and social issues going on in your Black world and covering it all from the perspective of 3 grown-ass men who like to get into a little bit of good trouble. You can find us on YouTube. You can follow us across social media at In the Black PDCST on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. And if you're so inclined, you can come on over to our Patreon where you can get behind the scenes content as well. Trust me, you will not regret it.
Thank you again. Oh, so everyone watching this video, please don't forget to like this video, to hit the subscribe button, and to hit that notification button because you want to be notified every time we drop new videos. Thank you guys for your constant support. And thank you all for being the first guest on season 3 premiere. Big shoes. But
yes,
I think we had a great conversation. We had a great conversation. And also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. I am constantly _changing the number 4 me on all those social platforms. So until next time, guys, take care of yourselves and be kind to others. See you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching us here on Indie Suit Media and also on Constantly Changing for Me. Don't forget to like, to subscribe, and hit the notification button. And we'll see you guys here next week.